everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we have another craft that we're doing, and this one is perfect for spring. You can also change it up if you want to make it for a different, what is the word? Season. It's completely interchangeable and customizable, just like the last one. And today we're making a super cute spring banner that you can hang outside or in your house, and it's adorable, and it just gives me all the fairy garden vibes, and I just totally love how it turned out. So if you guys want to see how to make it, just keep watching. So everything in this video came from the Dollar Tree, which is so great because I think the total cost of this project comes to about $7, $6 or $7. You factor in the fact that most of these things you'll have leftovers for, and you can use them in other projects. It actually makes it even cheaper, so that's awesome. We're gonna get started with these moss sheets, and you can find these at your Dollar Tree. These are super messy, just giving you a heads up. As soon as you start cutting into them, pieces of the moss falls everywhere. So you're gonna have a lot of fallout, but the majority of the moss does a good job staying on the sheets. So I like to keep these in the bags until I absolutely have to get them out so that I'm not making a huge mess. The good thing is that these are pretty big. So what I did with my other one is I cut this in half, and I used 2 for each sheet, and it made 6 letters. So that's why you have 3 sheets. So what we're gonna start off with doing is we're gonna make a template for how big we want our individual banners to be. I have a ruler here, and if you measure them, they measure out to be a little over 8.5 inches. What I think I did with my other one is I made a template that was 4¼ inch wide by however tall it is, which is about 6.5 inches.
Of course, if I had known I was going to be making another one of these, I would have kept my template, but I threw it away, so we're going to make another one, which is fine.
So basically what I'm going to do, take my sheet of paper, this is just white paper, nothing, you don't need anything fancy for this, and I'm going to measure out 4¼ inches wide, so 6.5 inches tall. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little triangle shape at the bottom to make it look more like a banner. And all I'm doing is I'm gonna measure across this and find the halfway point, which is gonna be a little tricky because it's 4¼ inches. It's not like an even 4 inches. So we're gonna go basically like
2 and whatever half of a quarter is, so like 0.12 or whatever.
Since this is the halfway point, halfway right here, I'm going to angle my ruler so that it lines up with the corner and it lines up with this halfway point. And then I'm gonna draw a line, and then you can just finish it off going the other direction. So there you have your banner shape. And this lines up perfectly with half of the sheet so that you can fit 2 on each. So now what we're gonna do, this is the messy part, we're gonna get all of these sheets out of their packages, and we're gonna start cutting them into the shapes that we want them to be. And you're going to have moss fall off, and that's okay. If you have any huge chunks, you can always just glue them back on. I'm gonna try to mess with these as little as possible because you really don't want a ton of the moss to fall off, but there will be some that falls out. And the awesome thing about these is they are on a grid on the back, and it helps to be able to poke the holes through. We're gonna take our moss sheets and our template, and basically what I did first is I just went and I cut all of the moss sheets in half so that I had 6, and then I went through and cut the little triangle part out of the bottom. I lined it up with this side, and then I'm just going to make a cut, and then I'm just going to cut all the way up. And there you have 2. Ooh. Moss flying everywhere. Okay, and there we have our 6. My cat Mango is coming to say hi, and I'm trying to get all of this swept up before he comes and tries to eat any of it. So now we have all 6 of our moss sheets, and I'm basically just gonna go through, line up this with the sheet, and then I'm just gonna cut out this tiny little triangle shape. And this part I found in the last one was a little bit tricky to get it off of the backing because you kind of have to cut it perfectly Otherwise, it kind of just hangs off like this and you just kind of have to twist it off. And Mango is trying to eat everything and I don't want him to eat it. Don't eat it, don't eat it. So once you kind of clip it off, that is the shape that you're left with. And I think it's super cute. Do you like it, Mango? Yeah, okay. You're just in the way, aren't you? Aren't you? You're just so in the way. Can I get you down? Whee! You wanna play with this? Look, Mango. It's all about distraction. Mango, really? You're gonna put your butt in the camera? Okay, stay there. Don't get in the way. Don't. Okay, I think it's inevitable. He's just gonna be in the way. All right, so now we have all of our sheets cut out and the majority of the mess making is done. You will have a tiny bit more just to give you a heads up. And full disclosure, I did see a variation of this DIY on a different YouTuber's channel. She did it differently than I'm doing it, so I figured it was fine. So now we're gonna move on to step 2, which is making the letters that are gonna go on to our sign. On the video that I'm kind of going off of, she was able to find wooden letters at the Dollar Tree.
And my Dollar Tree, I don't know what's wrong with it, but they don't have wooden letters.
So I had to figure out a different way to do it, and the best option that I came up with was to trace them and cut them out of the cork sheet that Dollar Tree sells. And this is actually adhesive, which is super awesome because it made it so I didn't actually have to glue my letters on to my banner. I just stuck them on with the sticky backing so that if I wanted to take them off and put something else on there, I can, and it's not permanent. We are going to trace out our letters. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these and I'm going to see about how big I want it to take up the space. Because my letters were a little bit bigger, and when I finished my sign, I remember thinking I kind of wished that they were a little bit smaller. So I think I'm going to err on the smaller side. I'm gonna do 3.5 inches tall, and then we're gonna do 3 inches wide. Now what you can do is you can get your pieces of paper and you can draw out squares so that you can fill the entire square with your letter, and then it'll be an even shape. Okay, so these ones you're not gonna be coloring in, which is fine. This paper just wasn't the perfect shape. But now we have 4 squares that are the same size, and we can use these to measure out our letters. So what I'm gonna do now is make 2 more squares. Okay, so now we have our templates, and they're not perfect, and that's fine. So I'm starting off here. Like that. It's kind of weird looking, so you can tweak it. And that is like so much better than the G that I made for mine. I think the fact that I've done this before is kind of helping me with that, because I messed with my letters so much the first time trying to get them perfect. There's our G, and now we have all of our letters all ready to go. I'm just going to start cutting them out. Okay. So now we are done with our letters. Ta-da! Spring! So awesome. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get out our adhesive cork sheet. And the nice thing about this is that it's actually pretty thin. I've seen cork sheets that are, you know, at least 1/4 inch thick, and that would be really difficult to cut through because cork is pretty porous. But this one is nice and thin, so make sure you pick yourself up one of these. And all of the letters should fit on one cork sheet. If you are doing this a little bit differently and you make your banners a little bit bigger, then you might need another cork sheet, but one should be enough if you're doing it the same way that I'm doing it. So I'm using an X-Acto knife. This is one of the best things that you're ever gonna buy for crafting because you will use it way more often than you think you're going to. So I'm going to start off with this, and you can cut pretty deep because you want to make sure that you're getting all the way through the cork. And if you're worried about your surface that you're cutting on top of, you can put a piece of paper through it just in case your knife goes through. Okay. And you do kind of want to try to make the most out of your space with this as possible, so that if you did want to use the remaining little bit of cork that you have for another project. That way you can. You can see how much easier it would have been if I had the wooden letters, because you could bypass this entire step. Okay, so there's our S.
You can't even tell that I ripped it in half.
It's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to place this one in the center of this sheet and try to press down a little bit, make sure that all of the stickiness is attached to something. And there is our S. How adorable is that? I love it. I think it's so cute. Ta-da! And there's our N. Okay, and now you can cut off your excess cork so you can use this in the future if you want. And now we've got our 6 letters and they're all ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to get a really long piece of jute cord. So I'm making it pretty long because it can always be cut down. And this jute cord, obviously I still have a ton left, and this is my second project with it, and it was only $1. So if you end up using more than you actually need, it's fine. So I am going to show you guys a little trick. I'm gonna go get some tape, and I'm going to tape off the ends so that it makes it easier to feed through the moss sheets. Now I've got my tape, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a little bit of tape and I'm going to tape off my ends because it gives it a little bit more of a sturdiness to hold on to, and it helps it to feed it through. Okay, so now we have our 2 ends. My main objective doing it the first time was to just get all of the banners onto the string, and then you can slide them around to make them fit how you want them to. And I'm taking my pencil and I'm just going to poke some decent holes where I know I want to put it. And that's just going to act as a guide for you to take your string. You want to make sure that you put the string in going the same direction every time. And we're going to pull it through and back through the other side. And you want to pull it through, you know, all the way. This is the part that takes a lot of time. And I try to be gentle with this, not really tug on the jute cord too much, because you don't want to pull off any more moss than what is already going to just come off naturally. So you want to try to be as gentle with it as possible. Okay, and there you have it. So now you've got all of your letters on the string. And now the last step is to glue on the flowers and you're done. This part I think is one of the most fun parts because it's the colorful part. So basically what I did with my other banner is I made like a centerpiece that was all glued together, and then I glued that onto my banner. We have 2 different colors of pink here. I'm thinking of doing 2 of one color and 1 of the other color to add in, you know, some dimension. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna finish off these flowers, and honestly all you have to do is pop off the tops and try to pick the flowers that look the best. So we have these 3 flowers, and then this is our greenery that we're gonna work with, and this is the one that you are going to want to cut. And you know, some of these can be a little bit thick. I'm gonna go get some pliers so that I can make sure that I cut these all the way through, because these are pretty thick. The greenery that I used on mine wasn't this thick. Slide these down. You can, you know, you can change them however you want. So I'm gonna go get some pliers and I will be back. Okay, so you can use actual wire cutters if you want. I don't think it's really that necessary. All you need are some pliers that have that thin edge on the inside so that when you clip it, it cuts it off. So what I'm gonna start off with doing is I'm going to kind of slide up these. Do my best to cut them off. There we go. And there's one. You really only need like 2 of these, I think. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to group our flowers together. You want your 1 odd man out flower to be in the center. And then we're going to have these greeneries going through so that it's kind of like that. I kind of like the simplicity of it with just the 2 sprigs on the sides. I am going to take these 2 and I'm going to tape them together. I think this is probably a good width, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to tape them together so that these at least stay together pretty well, and then you don't have to do as much gluing, and that is just gonna make your life so much easier. So then you have this base to glue your flowers to. I'm just sitting here waiting for my glue gun to warm up. It's the worst. It really is the worst. Finished it up, you guys, and it looks so pretty. I love how it turned out, and Mango loves it too. So basically, to show you guys, I just glued the backs of the flowers to the stem, and I just added a ton of glue just to make sure that it was nice and sturdy and that they weren't gonna fall off or anything. And once it's hardened, it's done and it's good to go. And now we can glue it onto our sign, and I will show you guys the finished product. And there it is. Isn't it so cute? I love it. I love how springy it is. I love how fresh it is. It's just really simple. I totally love it. You could easily do something like this for a wedding if you needed to do some sort of a banner, like Mr. and Mrs. or something. You could do something like that, and Mango is in the process of pulling it off the table. Thanks for going on this ride with me, and I think it turned out super cute. Make sure you tag me if you guys end up making them on Instagram, Facebook, and at Little Liesl Creations. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Bye!